Good morning, everyone. Pam Jacobson here, your host, Three Things You Need to Know. Welcome. If this is your first time tuning into the program, I encourage you to, at least this program has been going on now for over a year. I encourage you to at least go back to the beginning of 2021 because our focus in 2021 is optimal health, right? So if not now, when are we going to really work on finally realizing that New Year's resolution or that constant reminder to ourselves, oh, I really need to work on my health. But it's just something that keeps getting kind of put into the back burner. And the focus of 2021 is how can we finally really get down to brass tacks and have our optimal health. And my thing is, if not now, then when? Because it's crazy out there in the world, right? So we are really all under tremendous pressure, tremendous stress, and that is majorly impacting our health. So this is now a time, I think, more important than ever to understand the responsibility we each have for creating that optimal health foundation, baseline environment for ourselves. And I think that, now is a good time because it's the most challenging time. And when we're really challenged, we tend to be much more able to step up to the plate because it raises the stakes and it makes our why a little bit more important to keep us focused. So if you're new, go back, look at stuff from the beginning of the year. We've talked about detoxification. I've given just a ton of information on things that you can do to begin optimizing your health. Most recently, I started talking about the specific body systems and things that you need to know about, like your heart and your gut. This week, though, I really want to focus on a topic that's been coming up, especially in this last year, very frequently in my discussion with my clients. And I think it's a really important topic for me to discuss for all of you that may tune into this to understand how to effectively use the various health and wellness systems that are out there in the world today, right? There's a lot of confusion. And what I hear, the comment I probably hear most frequently from my clients is, I've been to my doctor or I've been to multiple doctors and I've had all these tests run and everything is negative, but I know that there's something wrong. Or I will run some tests on a client and it'll come back showing some issues and they'll be like, well, but I don't understand why my doctor couldn't help me with this, or why did my doctor not know this, or why did my doctor not catch this? And so I want to help you to understand and help you to set the correct expectation and help you learn how to advocate for yourself depending on the health environment you find yourself in. So I say health and wellness because really the two go together. Wellness is what we should all be striving for and understand the responsibility we have to create in order to end up in a situation where we need, in order not to end up in a situation where we're going to need someone that's actually working on the health side, right? It may be a disease or condition that's already developed or symptoms that have already developed. And so there is a continuum from wellness to healthcare. And I think it's really important to understand what that is and where along that continuum and what type of physician you might use or practitioner you might use along that continuum. So I use the word functional medicine. I think it's a great term because the word function is kind of self-explanatory, right? It's about function. It's about restoring optimal, normal function. And for a human, for an individual, that is mind, body, spirit, right? We have function on many levels. And so when I'm talking about function and restoration of function, I'm talking about the whole person and all of the various function that happens in those different levels in order to help them live on the planet and do the things that they want and need to do while they're here. On the other term I frequently use with my clients is convention or conventional medicine. You can think of it as Western medicine, allopathic medicine. You've heard it called many things, but essentially it is our current modern day, at least in the world really, but certainly I'm speaking, to a lot of you who are here in the United States. It is our medical system, our health care system, the place where we go when we have a health issue. Right. So today I'm going to talk about it in terms of functional medicine and conventional medicine. And the first thing I want to do for you is to define what those two things are and how they are different from each other and how they are both very necessary. so that you understand a little bit more clearly where to go for what you need and how to get things done efficiently and effectively in the various systems. So if we start on if we think about health and wellness as a continuum, right? We start out with wellness. When we're born, most of us are generally well. Pretty quickly, we learn some pretty bad habits. And wellness, depending on how good we are at managing that and understanding what to do, will change over time, and we will develop conditions that eventually affect our health. And then we may enter the healthcare system or the conventional system. So I think of functional medicine as the beginning of our life in terms of our wellness, our fitness, our health. In that it's all about prevention, it's all about education and understanding our responsibility to make the best choices for ourselves on a daily basis in the areas of sleep optimization, managing our response to stress, moving our bodies, fueling our bodies with proper nutrition and hydration, having social and spiritual and psycho-emotionally, I think, promoting activity in our life. So that is all captured in the area of functional. When I think of functional medicine, and as a practitioner of functional medicine, my role with my client is to help them understand, evaluate where are they at on that continuum from wellness to health issues, and how can they improve or optimize that. That's the whole focus in 2021, is how do we optimize our wellness and our function. And so as a practitioner of functional medicine, that's really my role, is to help you evaluate where you're at on that continuum. What is your current baseline for health and wellness, and how do we optimize that and restore function? And in that process, also identify if you've crossed over into the need for true assistance with restoring your health on the healthcare side of things. So that gives you a feel for functional medicine. It's where you should start. It's the preventative part of your sort of lifespan when it comes to health and wellness. Conventional medicine is a relatively new health system. I think functional medicine encompasses a lot of different health systems or wellness systems that you see out there, right? Functional medicine is its own system, its own training, but you've got things that fall into that, like Chinese medicine, acupuncture, chiropractic care, naturopathic medicine, Ayurvedic medicine. So there's a lot of different disciplines that can fall into the realm of functional or preventative or whole person care. On the conventional side of medicine, it's a relatively new system, right? A lot of these functional systems are very ancient. Chinese medicine, for instance, thousands of years old. Ayurvedic medicine, very, very old. Conventional medicine is relatively new, right? Really mostly developed during wartime, in the more recent era of war, and meant for acute care. Acute meaning immediate, instant. We need help right now. We have a bad infection. We have bleeding. We have, a limb that's hanging off, whatever the case may be. You're not going to go to a functional medicine or a preventive practitioner for something that's already occurred that needs immediate attention. That was the original intention of conventional medicine. That was what it was established for and what it was focused on. However, over the 150 to couple hundred years that conventional medicine has been coming into its own, we as a population have gotten less and less and less well. And certainly we haven't learned what we needed to in terms of how to create and maintain wellness, right? Where do you learn it? Not in school, not in church, not from your family, not from your community. So unless you somehow become interested or perhaps forced because you have a health condition, most of us get really basically no education about self-care and what it means to be well and how do you create a well baseline, right? Most of us have no idea really how to do that. Many of us are interested and we're looking on the internet, like people like me, to see what should I be doing, but usually because you've been led there. You're overweight, you've got all kinds of health symptoms, you've been to many doctors, they can't help you. You're in the process of function declining. That's going to be a disease, maybe like type 2 diabetes, but you're not there yet. So your conventional system can't help you. And your functional system could help you if you understood how to properly use it. So on the conventional side, what's happened as we've become a less and less and less well population with no education on how to get well and stay well, we've developed chronic health conditions, not acute, right? It takes decades to develop type 2 diabetes. It takes decades to develop a cancer. So we have become a chronically ill population. That's not acute. We're not going to die tomorrow from our condition, but it's significantly impacting our health span, our lifespan, our quality of life, and really, in a lot of ways, also our economy, right? So much of what's happening now is money being spent on helping people manage chronic disease that's been created because of a lack of wellness. So functional side is all about creating the wellness. The conventional side is really, I would call it more symptom management, right? There's not a lot of solutions in conventional medicine for chronic disease, right? We've got medications that can slow the progress, but we don't have much in terms of curative treatments in conventional medicine. That's not to say we're not constantly doing research and that there aren't a lot of maybe promising things out there. But in my experience, the majority of what happens in conventional medicine with chronic disease, right? If you've got a torn limb or you're bleeding or you have a terrible infection, you need conventional medicine. They can help you, they can save your life, and that makes sense. But if because of crappy lifestyle, you're developing type 2 diabetes, the best that physician is going to be able to do for you is to put you on a drug that will, in some ways artificially manage what's happening with the numbers in terms of your blood sugar control, but not necessarily considerably change the metabolic and physical derangement that continues to go on. Your lifespan is going to be shortened. Your quality of life is going to be impacted on medication or not on medication. So the bottom line is that we're trying to use a conventional medical system that was designed to take care of acute issues to save our butts from a lack of any knowledge, understanding, or impetus to take care of ourselves. That's essentially what we're doing. And so then my patients, clients come to me and they're frustrated because my doctor can't help me. Well, your doctor can't help you because that's not really what they do. However, obviously, in the last, probably 20, 30 years, as we become a much more chronically ill population, our conventional healthcare system is really trying to catch up and doing everything they can to help you. And there's a lot of us that are chronically ill, many, many of us, right? So this system is just inundated by all of the obesity, the type 2 diabetes, the cardiovascular disease, the metabolic disease, the cancers that they find themselves a bit behind the eight ball. They haven't had thousands of years to develop a system to deal with these kinds of things, and we certainly don't have medications and other procedures that we can use in a curative fashion. You just have to look at cancer, right? We've come a long way in helping people with cancer, but we don't have a way to cure cancer in most cases. So again, it's understanding how to use the two systems. You start in functional medicine to understand how to get well and how to stay well. My experience is for the majority of us that are experiencing the beginning stages of functional decline because of chronic, basically poor lifestyle, that about 90% of the symptoms and the issues that you have can be corrected just by working on establishing a more optimized baseline. And that's what this whole year so far has been about. So again, I encourage you, go back and look at all of the videos. And we've talked about what you can do to begin to change this baseline. And this is, even if you are a type 2 diabetic, I'm working with multiple type 2 diabetics right now that within 60 days, 90 days, by just changing lifestyle, are able to really lower their numbers that have to this point dictated the medications that they're on, right? They are able to reverse that situation. On the conventional side, all we can do is really just help to slow down progress or manage symptoms, but we don't really have a cure for type 2 diabetes. I mean, we just don't. There's not a drug that you can take that just cures type 2 diabetes. Or obesity or cardiovascular disease, right? Most of conventional medicine's focused on trying to patch you together and band-aid things and kind of hold you together to get you as far along as possible in your lifespan, right? but it's not focused on what I call health span or quality of life. So let's talk for a minute about what I think drives a lot of this confusion for all of you out there that are, because we grow up, most of us, with only an understanding of conventional medicine, right? We have a pediatrician, we grow up going to the doctor, we've gotten our vaccines, whatever we've done in the medical system, we grow up with this impression that anytime there's something that's not right, I go to the doctor and the doctor should be able to fix that. And another layer is I go to the doctor should be able to fix it, and my insurance should pay for it. Unfortunately, I've got bad news for everybody watching this. None of that happens that way anymore. Your doctor can't fix the majority of what's going on for you. And your insurance company also doesn't pay anymore, right? Most of us are finding ourselves either uninsured or very much less insured than we might have been in the past. And for the younger people, especially like my children who are in their early 30s, they're now working in jobs where they have to make a decision about what kind of coverage they can even afford. And most of them are choosing the cheapest, which tends to be a very extremely stripped down, managed type of care that doesn't allow them a lot of latitude, right? So they don't get much coverage. They still have a lot of out-of-pocket expense. So there's this mindset that many of us have that, even though I'm creating this illness for myself by the way I eat and the way I think and the way I choose not to move my body, and I'm creating this illness for myself, I still have some mindset, an entitlement mindset that says, and my insurance company should pay to bail me out of that. Well, that's not happening. And it's going to get less and less and less as we move along. And that extends to those of us that are near Medicare age for me, but those of you who are already on Medicare, right? We already know that there's a much decreased amount of reimbursement for Medicare. What I can say about insurance coverage is that it is focused on conventional care, folks. It is for the stuff that you do when you're in that system. It, by and large, does not focus on wellness. I think that's a huge mistake. Just like I think our education system is a huge mistake, right? This would be a great opportunity in our early educational years to learn one of the most important things, which is how to take care of ourselves, how to make the right decisions about fueling our body and moving our body and managing our responses to stress that so much creates so much damage to our health. We should be learning those things in kindergarten and first grade and fifth grade and high school. And we should be learning about relationship and relationship to each other. We'd have so many less problems. So anyway, I'll get off that soapbox, but it's really this lack of education that is driving a lot of what's happening. So we don't have an education system that supports that for all of us. And we also don't tend to understand that health insurance is really about covering things that are catastrophic from a health perspective, many of which are created by us, again, given the choices that we make on a daily basis. So I had an incident in the last couple of weeks where I had a client who wanted to do a baseline health evaluation or wellness evaluation to see what it was, where the function was declining and what he needed to work on for optimization. Okay, so that's reasonable. That's the way that most of my clients that come to me, that's what they're looking for. However, when we got to the point where we wanted to do the testing, blood tests, saliva tests, stool testing, I do a lot of different testing to help provide me with evidence to know what that baseline looks like. He wanted to know if he could ask his primary physician to run those lab tests for him. Now, I understand the financial constraints my clients have, and I'm always open-minded and absolutely supportive. And I said, absolutely, here's a list, print this out and give it to your doctor and ask her to run these tests. And, I warned him that she's not likely to, first of all, take it really well that you're telling her what to do. And secondly, she's not likely to run the majority of these tests because, again, I'm looking at you from a functional perspective. She's just simply looking at you to screen for a disease. So the depth of information she needs is much less than the depth of information that I'm going to need. So my workup is much more comprehensive. It's also going to be much more costly as far as your insurance coverage goes. And so just be forewarned. And that's exactly what happened. He took the list to his doctor. She said, I can't order these tests. But she told him that they were experimental and that they were controversial and which first of all was a complete untruth and misinformation. There's, most laboratory testing is, if it's already a legitimate lab test, is not experimental or controversial. But I believe what she was saying, or what she intended to say, or what she intended him to understand, is that the insurance company will not likely pay. So it's controversial in terms of, you're going to end up with a bill, at the end of this, that you're going to have to pay. And this is not information that I want in my file, because it's not anything I can do anything about. I'm not here to evaluate function. I'm here to see if you've developed type 2 diabetes, or you've got some other condition that's creating the symptoms that you have. And so she refused to run the majority of the tests. She would do some basic things. And so then I needed to educate him, right? Because he was upset. He doesn't want to pay out of his pocket to have any kind of laboratory testing done, because he's of that entitled mind that I work hard. This is part of my compensation. My insurance should be paying for these things. So I wanted to just, give you all this overview so that you understood there was a big difference between wellness and expanding your health span, and really focusing on being well into your much later years, and perhaps living much longer than what is the average right now. But there is a price tag to that, right? There's not going to be, for the most part, insurance coverage. Now, I have to say, the majority of my patients do get most of their blood work covered. But when it comes to other functional tests, not usually. They have small, what I think are fairly reasonable copays. I think it's a relatively small investment to learn what you need to learn to get yourself well. But I think it's important to understand that, number one, you have the responsibility on your own to educate yourself about how to get and stay well. And you also have the responsibility to cover the cost for that, that this is not something that you're going to be able to expect that your insurance company would cover. What you can expect your insurance to pay for is a hospitalization or a major surgical procedure. But even these days, they don't even cover most of your typical office visits anymore, or, you're paying higher amounts for your prescriptions. But when it comes to your supplement treatments and, specialty treatments through, I don't know, some kind of body work situation, the majority of the time your insurance is not going to pay for that. So when we're talking about why your doctor can't help you get well, it's because that's not what conventional medicine is focused on. Conventional medicine is focused, I think of it as a disease model. It's focused on the identification of diseases or conditions that are creating the symptoms a person comes in for, right? Fatigue, digestive upset, pain is a big one. Their job is to rule out any major conditions, such as cancer, for instance, that might be causing that problem. So they'll do blood work, they'll do, imaging studies like CTs, MRIs. And they have a toolbox that contains basically two tools: surgical intervention and pharmaceutical medication. So if in their toolbox, one or both of those tools can't solve the problem, they're not really going to be able to help you. Now, there's a lot of great physicians out there. They'll say you need to go on a diet, or you need to manage your stress better, but they have 5 or 10 minutes at max to see you for that visit. So they're not going to go into any kind of detail about how to do that, just simply that you need to do that. And that's, again, what your insurance company is really geared to potentially cover for you. On the functional side, there's a lot more detective work and detail that goes into identifying the function that's declining and helping you create a health optimization plan that you can implement, that you can expand on, that you can develop over time, so that it takes you through the balance of your lifespan. So I hope that you all have at least found this somewhat enlightening in terms of relieving some of the anger, really almost anger borders on, that I get from my clients when they feel like their doctor has failed them. Your doctor is there to help you, but you have to understand that the doctor has this toolbox. It's pharmaceutical medications, the majority of which are there to manage and suppress symptoms, and surgical interventions, right, which are extremely important, as are the medications, for what they are able to do. But those things are not going to save you from yourself, right? They're not going to save you from a bad diet, or a sedentary lifestyle, or a lack of any kind of a dedication on a daily basis to managing how your body and your mind and your spirit respond to the stress in your life that you have no control over. You only have control over how you respond, right? And then sleep. I mean, I won't even go into that. You can go back and watch my multiple videos on sleep. It's a tragedy, right? Especially in the American population. The only time your body can repair itself. So, for those of you who want to be well and want to live a long, high quality life, you need to focus your efforts on the side of functional medicine, functional health, wellness optimization, and understand that the majority of that work is stuff that you are going to need to do for yourself. Those of you who already have significant symptoms and health conditions, you're going to need to figure out how to marry the two together, right? Make sure that your conventional primary or surgical specialty physician knows these other things that you're doing, but you advocate for yourself, right? I hear you, doctor. I will do these things, but I'm also going to do all of these things on the wellness side. And you can learn how to marry those two things together. But what you need to stop doing is expecting your doctor to save you from the poor decisions that you make on a daily basis. So I hope you found this helpful. It was a little bit of a PSA, a little bit of a soapbox today, but I've just been getting an increasing number of really frustrated, angry clients that are bashing their physicians in my first consultation with them. And I just wanted you all to understand that functional and conventional medicine are at opposite ends of that spectrum. And you are the one responsible for advocating for yourself and understanding how to effectively and efficiently use all of the health and wellness resources that are available to you out there. So I'm here every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And I encourage you all to go back and look at all of the other shows that I've done. There's just a ton of information in there for how you can get and stay well in 2021. Take care, everyone. Have a great week.